Hello, everyone. Welcome to Snap Take. I'm Glazer of the Snap Judgments podcast, and I am infinite. Since I'm infinite, I decided to make a video going over my infinite deck and tell you the story of why I'm so happy about this, why this is one of my favorite decks. I hit infinite with my girl, Ghost. I finally hit infinite with Ghost. I hit infinite every season. This is my seventh straight infinite, but hitting with the Ghost is super important. All right. Before we get any further, though, there is a pack coming. It is called the Spoonful of Sugar pack, and it opens in 3 days. I'm going to be buying this pack for a lucky winner. All you have to do is be following and comment on this video. If you're following me and you comment on this video, that's it. You're entered to win the Spoonful of Sugar bundle. Reason I'm doing this today is honestly, I recorded this video. I screwed up the sound. Really sorry about it. Let's make it up by giving away a pack. In addition, Snap Judgments and we, in addition to being Snap Fans' official podcasting partner, are the home of the single biggest Marvel Snap giveaway every single month. So make sure you check us out. Make sure you're following us here and on Twitter at Snap Judgecast so that you can be entered to win the biggest Marvel Snap giveaway every single month. All right, let's talk about Ghost. So Ghost is a 1/2. Your cards are always revealed last. Their on-reveal abilities happen last. Now, this card, I've never been more excited. You can see right here, this Snap Judgments, episode 9. We're on like episode 25 now. We're way bigger. First time we had Bootman on. This whole episode, Bootman and myself just don't shut up about it. You can see this is late February that this releases, and Bootman and I are all about Ghost. Like, we're super hyped for Ghost. The reason is I started out playing Marvel Snap. My first Infinite, the Black Panther season, I was playing this Sarah Miracle deck. You can see how many cards would be great in this deck, like Mysterio, that I just don't have yet. But what eventually took me over the top was I added Arrow, back when Arrow moved the whole opponent's board, because I kept finding I was losing because I had priority. It was hard to not have priority when you're running cards like Crossbones, right? But I'm also running Enchantress and Shang-Chi, and I'd really like them to go off. I'd really like these two cards to be able to win me the game, like not Arrow. So Ghost should solve that, right? Turns out there's a problem. One, Arrow's still in other decks, and so losing priority was really bad for Ghost and Shang. And two, Killmonger was way too important for the decks at that point. Ghost never really fit. Bootman himself kept hitting infinite. He hit like the first 3 seasons he did it with this deck he called Magentress. Again, you'll see Killmonger, but there was never a way for Ghost to actually fit. Ghost never actually took this deck, which seemed like it would be over the top. There was just never a time to play it where you didn't want to sort of destroy it or it wasn't getting in the way of other things you needed to do to the point where you would get rid of it. This was Bootman's Infinite deck. This was my Infinite deck. We're hyped for Ghost, and Ghost becomes this huge pile of trash. Like, absolutely terrible card. No one can play it. No one can figure out how to make it work. Well, finally, Arrow gets nerfed. And going first, unless you're playing against Galactus in very specific situations, stops being nearly as important in the meta. So the other day, here's this deck, right? This is the deck I hit Infinite with. We're going to leave this up for now, and we're going to talk about it. So this deck ran originally Nightcrawler in the Ghost spot, and now there's a version, the most common and popular meta version is running Nebula in the spot. I tried that too. So Bootman's playing it, and Nebula, if she doesn't turn up on turn 1, isn't really worth it, and it's frustrating, right? I'm climbing with this deck. The version of this that had Nightcrawler, so Safety Blade over at Marvel Snapzone, Safety Blade is one of the best deck builders in the game. Awesome human being. Check him out if you haven't. Safety Blade made the Nightcrawler version of this deck. So I play everything Safety makes, but I didn't know he made this, so I was just like screwing around with stats because we do the Snap Fan tier list that we're actually recording that episode tomorrow, but we do the Snap Fan tier list, right? So because we do that, I keep a really close track of what decks are performing. And there's this really quiet performer. This deck's winning like 67% of games with a stupid like 0.8 cube rate with Nightcrawler in this spot. So I tweet KM Best, I tweet Safety, I tweet like 5 or 6 different people. At this point, the community is fairly close knit. You know who I looked for, right? And I was like, who made this? This deck is sick. I just keep winning with it. Like, I climbed like 10 infinite ranks in like 2 hours. It was stupid. It was absolutely, like, no one knew what they were playing against, and it was just so easy to get cubes. Turns out Safety made it at around the same time someone on KM Best Discord made it. At that point, everyone made freaking videos on this deck. KM Best, Bootman, Spessy, Mobile Gamer, TLSG, like you name them, Kochia, like you name the player, they made a video on this deck. And it just kept winning, even though everyone knew what it was. So the big question became what to do at this last spot. I was running Killmonger in there, and there was never really a turn I wanted to play Killmonger. Like, there were lots of different options. So Boot has the idea to just, like, on his cast, to just throw Ghost in. So I'm ranked 95, and, like, I was so in love with Ghost, and Ghost is, like, I stay loving Ghost, even though she has not been good. I put Ghost in the deck. 2 hours later, 95 to 100. Boom, like that. I'm infinite. Ghost is not going to automatically win games, right? But you know what lane the opponent has to win usually, and if you're good at reading decks, you know whether you want a Shang or Enchantress, or if you have Zabu out both on the last turn, and that's it. That's game. That's game, and that's big cubes, right? You're always going to go second. The card's always going to go off exactly how you want it to, as long as you're smart enough to play around Arrow. Arrow's not everywhere, but she is still some places. Ghost just straight up wins games. What else does Ghost do? All right, so what I've been doing is I've been sticking Ghost in the lane they're going to Galactus if I know I can't get a Polaris in there. Obviously, plan one is just Polaris, one of their 2 drops into that lane, turn off the Galactus, right? If I know I can't do that, I get Ghost in the lane, and Ghost beats a Galactus on 5, right? Because what they're going to do is they're going to drop some big things. Well, you've got Enchantress and Shang-Chi, right? If you can get Ghost and Zabu into that lane, woo-wee! You go Shang and Darkhawk, have a great day. You just won 8 cubes. Is this a solution to the wave into Galactus on 4? No, it is not. But the Galactus on 5 play? Yeah, Ghost is real good for that. What else does this deck do? All right, this deck has obviously the Darkhawk package, right? The Darkhawk package at this point is Korg, Rockslide, Darkhawk. Just gets a 4/10 out. You basically never, ever want to play Darkhawk unless you absolutely have no choice or are 100% sure of your opponent's deck list, because Enchantress is so prevalent right now. You almost always want to just play Darkhawk on the last turn of the game. If you have Ghost out, Darkhawk is protected from their Shang and Enchantress. No fear, no worries. What else do you want to do? Ideally, you're getting Zabu out on 2. Zabu is the most important 2 in the deck, because what it allows you to do is play something like Rock Slide on 3. And then if you can get a move going, right, or if you Polaris on 3, you can go Rock Slide and Ghost or Rock Slide and Korg on the next turn. Really great. Really great play. Super powerful. Don't be afraid to play Miles as a 4 or 3/5. 3/5 with Zabu works perfectly well. Polaris and Jeff are there to move. Try not to use both the move on Jeff and the move on Polaris on the same turn. It ends up messing you up fairly often because you want to try and save that for when you're going to play Miles. Also, make sure if you know what you're going to do next turn, don't move Jeff yet unless you have to, right? Because moving Jeff at that point is going to make Miles cheaper, and you might prefer to do that later. So think carefully about when you want to make that move. The other big key is Black Bolt and Stature. This is basically how you beat Doomwave. If they're going to play Wave, you Black Bolt. Ideally, again, if Ghost is in play, their Wave will go off first. You know what the cheapest card in their hand is going to be? That Death. Chucking that Death is a great way to win that matchup. She-Hulk does not, unfortunately, lose that extra 2 until later, so you're not necessarily getting She-Hulk unless they floated him out on the last turn. However, their whole hand costs 4, so you have a really good shot of hitting something important that they wanted to play. At that point, Stature is a 1. Much like Miles, Stature and Miles 1 is not affected by Wave, so you can play something like Darkhawk and Stature, or Shang-Chi and Stature, Shang-Chi and Miles, etc. You can even play all 3 if you had a move that turn as well, if that's the turn you happen to move Jeff. I don't very often play blind with this deck. Jeff either wins or loses me a invisible location. If they have Doom and he loses it, so be it. I'm fine with that. But I don't often play blind with this deck. I make sure that I'm playing in locations my opponent that I can see, making decisions based on what's visible on the board. The other big thing in this deck is I found myself losing a little bit when I switched over to this version when I tried to play for 3 lanes. It's really important that for this deck that you try and play for 2 lanes. 1 lane will have like a Ghost and a Jeff or Ghost and a Zabu or whatever, Korg and Zabu, and you're not really competing in that lane. If that lane randomly wins, great. Unless they're like ignoring it and you want to go in on it last turn because you can just steal it quickly, that lane is ignored. What playing on 2 lanes does is usually your opponent will just concede 1. If they're trying to concede all 3 and you're just going in on 2, you usually have more power. You just win. And you're relatively protected from Shang except Darkhawk, right? So like you're usually just going to win that. The other thing playing for 2 lanes does is you know which of the 2 that they're really competing on most of the time. If you can tell which of the 2 they're really competing on, your Enchantress and Shang go up in value incredibly high. Because now there's only one lane that you're really contesting, and that Enchantress or Shang-Chi will win extra cubes. All right, so that's the deck. 2 hours yesterday morning. Played while literally grading papers, hit infinite like that. The last important thing is my boy Bootman's doing it too. He's got a video where he takes this exact deck, these exact cards, and is climbing like 15 ranks in several hours. This deck is OP. Ghost has found a home. Welcome to Ghost Meta, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you comment in order to be entered to win a spoonful of sugar. See you Monday for another Snap Take, and catch Snap Judgments Tuesday for the Snap Fan tier list.